Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce. We're here for BTB as usual. Sauce here Thursday night now because there's no Thursday night footy for the rest of the home and away season.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. Early in the year, I was sitting there going, geez, why are they not doing Thursday night footy? But with how flat chat I am at the moment, thank God.
I hadn't spoken to you much this week and I wasn't sure if you'd done much. I had a look before at this round, and the bet slip isn't going to be too full at the moment. I will give the listeners out there a heads up because not a lot that I seem to like out there this week, Sauce.
Probably not in terms of actual bets you're going to lock down. There's still trends I think that you can take advantage of as a punter, especially in some of the player props. But you know, you're getting down to this season, at the end of the season, and you look at the bottom sort of six teams. A lot of their seasons are done, so they're looking to put the queue in the rack. They're looking at trialling players for next year. You look at some of the finals teams coming up against other finals teams. They're, again, putting the queues in the rack, probably not giving too much away. If they, you look at Collingwood and Port Adelaide this week, and do they go at a gun and hoe and they try and get advantage in the regular season, because that doesn't really matter. So it makes it quite challenging going into the last couple of rounds right before finals. Yeah,
and there are a few things that have happened throughout the week and last round as well. There are a couple of ripping games. There are a few close games. Sydney got over the line against the Bulldogs to keep their season alive, and the Bulldogs had an opportunity to finish the night at least in the top four. They wouldn't have stayed there for the whole round, but they had a really big opportunity let slip, and that's what the Doggies have seemed to do this year. And Sydney, they're a bit outside, but they've given themselves a fighting chance.
Have given themselves a fighting chance. They would need to win basically all 6 games to give themselves a shot. I bet you they're kicking themselves, literally kicking themselves. The Geelong game as well as the Richmond game that they let slip away. There's 6 points that they went begging. The Richmond game they should have taken care of the Tigers, and we know what happened in that Geelong game. Jeez.
Yeah, and things happen throughout a year, and you look back at it later on, and but at least they're doing a Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber. So you're telling me there's a chance it's still alive as we go. Then the next game was probably one of the most miraculous games and finishes that I've seen, because I've never been more confident that a team was actually going to go away with the win. And we'll talk about it in the bet review, because I had a couple of things go in that game, but Brisbane ended up losing this game by a point, and there was about 7 minutes to go. They're up by more than 20 points. It was just an unlosable position. They turned defensive. They changed their game style, and Melbourne just went bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, they just panicked, Pez, and I like what you said about that turn defensive. It's quite interesting to see a team that's that's meant to have some premiership caliber to be able to not be able to ice out a game. That's a skill set that Collingwood we've seen the last 2 years. Have been able to ice out games, and obviously they've come back from the dead in a couple of those situations. But when you're up by 3 goals, not long to go, icing the game, getting possession, but Melbourne just dominated that midfield. They put Petrarca back in that mid, and he just absolutely dominated. They found something from Melcham to be able to get a couple of goals. Nice little celebration there. But
he's kept his career alive, because the last 2 weeks he's been amazing as a small forward, Melcham, and probably only got the opportunity because of the injuries, and especially Bailey Fritsch out at Melbourne. So he's cemented himself a spot in that team going into finals.
He really has, and it's from a punting point of view, Pez, for those 2 games that you just mentioned. In a capping competition that I had Brisbane as my sure pick at the +3.5, and I had the Western Bulldogs a sure pick at the +2.5, and I won both of those, but got both my tips wrong and both my bets wrong because I tipped them to outright win the Dogs and the Lions.
Yeah,
but that's football.
Speaking about tipping and competitions, I've
They
been on top
Yep.
in nearly every competition I'm in, going through 18 rounds. And Thursday night, I'm thinking, sweet, I'm going to get the Doggies tip. It's a good one because most have tipped Sydney. Lose. Like, shit. So check who's tipped what. Brisbane, Melbourne kicked the first 4 goals. Shit. Brisbane come up and, Brisbane look like they're going to win by 40 plus at one stage.
Dominated the game for 3 quarters.
I'm like, yep, all right. And then Melbourne go and kick 4 goals to lead there. I lose 2 tips but the other person or
Yeah, they
people that
gained-
are second, they gain 2. So it's a 4-point swing, and this late in the season, it's not great for
all
those
over
comps.
Red Rover. But speaking of all over, I mean, probably one of the biggest surprises has been Carlton the last 3 weeks or last 4 weeks. You know, the last 4 weeks
4
they've
in a
won
row.
4 in a row by 50 plus pairs. And do you know the last team to do that, to win 4 games in a row by 50 plus?
Oh, you're asking the question, so probably
The
Geelong.
07 Cats.
Yeah, there you go.
And you know, is a premiership in line for the Blues? Are they finally coming, Pez? They're playing West Coast this week. Surely that's another 50-point win. So
Well, they are coming because they were down 15th, 14th on the ladder, and now they're up to 10th. So they're continuing to go. They play West Coast, so they'll lock in the 4 points there. The Bombers play the Dogs, so you'd say Carlton, if they beat West Coast, they're going to be on top of either Essendon or the Western Bulldogs, who both at stages of this year have been, touted as finals bound.
isn't it funny that they could almost drop out, the Dogs or Essendon after this week, after having such a, the Dogs being a team that had top 4 aspirations, and they're a team that, what's going on there, Pez? You got little bugs flying around. What's that? Sorry to podcast listeners there. We had to cut a little bit short while Pez got all the all the cleaning supplies and all the bug spray, and
I didn't move.
debugged his house. Jeez, that's all it is. It's all the other podcasts and tipsters trying to bug our podcast to get the tips early, but no luck so far, Pez.
I don't know what's going on, but let's get back to the crux of things. And just looking at the ladder there, I've just made a couple of things. Carlton and Richmond sit on 34 points, and everyone would say that they've had a really poor season. You look at Essendon, Western Bulldogs, people would say they've had a decent season, and they sit on 36 points, where Saints, had a really good start, and now they're tumbling down where they probably belong. So they'll miss out as well. But you've got interesting things happening, and we're going to get into round 19. But before we do, we had a big round 18 of bets.
Soft review. It's no official review. How does it end? We don't know. They've kind of lost, but they've won as well.
All right, let me get onto this one, because this is what I want to speak about. Now, when you've got the sports bet special, where you've got 2 legs, and if you lose, you get a bonus bet back. One of the reasons why we try and take advantage of most of them sources, because if we lose for whatever reason, it's just a unit or 2 units or whatever it is, and then you've got a chance to win it back. And depending on what strategy you use, it can work into your advantage. So what happened with me is, you had Bulldogs 1-39 and Bulldogs plus 3.5 at 3/4 time. They won that first leg, which means I had an opportunity late in the game to hedge, and I didn't do it, but I could have jumped on Sydney at 3:10, sitting there on the phone, ready to call up, and didn't do it. Didn't pay off in the end because ended up losing. I thought the Doggies would have held on, so I lost it, got the bonus bet, and I put the bonus bet on Jack Sinclair, most disposals Group 1, which lost. He had a shocker of a game in the Gold Coast game, so no good. But heading to the next game, we got Melbourne versus Brisbane. Had the over 137.5, which was going through easily, and then had Brisbane 1-39. I was getting really, really nervous when Brisbane got 28 points up in the game, and then Melbourne kicked a goal, and I've jumped on Brisbane live minus 22.5. Now, this was kind of like a hedging bet, so I wouldn't lose a lot. So I had 2 units on. I put 1.2 units out just to win some back, and to try and provide myself a middle of 17 points.
Yeah.
It didn't work out because Melbourne actually ended up winning, and that is actually the first time ever in my punting career source that I have not only missed the hedge, because I've missed the hedge before, but not won one of the bets, because usually when you hedge, you're guaranteeing that you win one of the bets. And that's how sure I was that Brisbane were going to win this game, either over 23 or in the 1-39 margin. So it didn't work out, but in hindsight, it worked out in the end, because I had most disposals Group 2, Jack Crisp, who was able to get that done by 1 or 2 disposals at a $6.25 get. So in hindsight, it was better for me that Melbourne ended up winning, but on the night, it didn't feel too good.
Yeah, well, that was pretty much my round, Pez, with bonus bets. I had 4 bonus bets out from the first 2 bets, as we sort of spoke about, that losing, and all 4 of those did not salute. And a little bit disappointing, but not unexpected. So the Collingwood game on a talk to a little bit. I had a huge a multi going out there with Clark over 20.5, Johnson over 17.5, and let down by Pendlebury being subbed out late in that game, and sort of really put sort of the cue in the rack with that one. Bit disappointed with that one. Ollie Henry, 3 goals. Plus 3 goals. I want to talk to Essendon about this. Last time Geelong played Essendon, Thatcher got absolutely destroyed by Hawkins, and Essendon again persevered with this. And again, what happened? Absolutely destroyed by Hawkins, which you took advantage of with 3 goals.
That's why I spoke about it last week, because I thought, what else are they going to do?
I mean, that's what I was really surprised at. I didn't think that they would be, dumb enough really to go with that same matchup again. The last 4 or 5 times that they've played, he's absolutely piled on.
He could have had another 8.
Could have easily. And Ollie Henry, a bit disappointing. He did have three looks at goal. A goal, a point, rushed behind, and then also a missed shot from goal.
He's done this to you before as well. He's
plus
just
3
unreliable.
Goals. Yeah, unreliable. But he tell you what though, anytime he gets the ball, he is looking for a ping. He doesn't like giving it off. But then the only bet that actually paid off for me was the Gold Coast versus St Kilda. I was very confident in Flanders to get 20 or more. He's absolutely killing his role at the moment. The Gold Coast money line with the new coach and not new coach, but the interim, and took Miller 20 plus on his second game back.
Yeah,
easy money. I still don't understand that one. So the only salute for me was 237 wins, so 2 units for me, but a bit of a loss for the round, but. Crippled by bonus bets there, Pez.
Yeah, and you split a bonus bet as well on the young Cooper Harvey, which a lot of people ended up being on, which was really disappointing that he didn't get a look in, because Hawthorn just dominated that game.
They did dominate that game. North Melbourne couldn't get their hands on it coming out of the midfield. He had a couple of sort of opportunities where he got near the pill, but that's what happens when you put your money with the second game player. Like you're expecting some inconsistencies, and North Melbourne, one of the worst sides in the league, you can't expect them to go forward too often either.
Yeah. You already spoke to mine. Hawkins 3 goals, 225. I didn't love the odds at 225. I think it was 230 when I spoke about it last week, but it jumped on at a little bit less because. 225 isn't great odds for a player to kick 3, but when you're playing against Essendon, it's not too bad. Now, this one I was confident in. I had 2 units on this one, Sauce, Adelaide versus GWS, over 170.5. And you'd be surprised because this was actually on track. It was on track to go over. And in that second quarter, just the way Adelaide were moving the ball, I didn't like it. I didn't want to risk my 2 units in that game on that night. I was kind of done, so I called up live, went on Bet365, $1.87 for 2 units of under 182.5. I didn't leave myself a big middle, but it was just to get some money back there and not lose those 2 units. So the under ended up happening by a lot. I got 1.74, so I actually lost 0.26 units on the game because I made the wrong call. But because I was able to live hedge, I didn't lose as much as I would have. So for the round, I actually profited 7.29 units, which we love to see. ROI sitting near 80%. And for the season, 18 rounds through, 25 units up. And then you as well, you've got your 45 units up for the year, Sauce, which takes us to over 70 units, which we've got a bit of work to do because last season, after the grand final, we were up 120 units in 2022. So we've got 50 units to go in not long.
50 units to go, and what's that? About 6 rounds left, and then 4 finals. So 10. If we do 2 a round, Pez, we're there. We both average 2 units a round. Up by that, we're around. Have another big one like you just had, and we'll be absolutely laughing. But I don't know if it'll be this round, Pez, because as we've alluded to, there is not a lot of great odds, and this point of the year, the bookies have really crunched a lot of those 3 or 4 goals. They've identified a lot of trends with disposal. So.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll speak to it. You got to pick your spots really carefully. And here's the bet slip.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Now bets with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate, and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I said.
Straight into the specials for round 19.
Cyril takes a special and goes bang.
Yeah, no Thursday night footy, which means Sportsbet only have the second chance multi for the Friday night game, which we will probably both be on. Blue Bet 12 points up at halftime, pays out early. Actually, in that game, I did notice Adelaide versus GWS last week, Sauce. Adelaide up by 17 at halftime, so it would have paid out head-to-head, even though they're only $1.30 odd. But GWS ended up winning, so both teams head-to-head would have been paid out on Blue Bet there. What else have we got? Tab. Now, Tab have gone to the last quarter of the season because they've gone, you know what? Stuff yous. 4+ leg same game multi now. Mm-hmm. All games. No 3+ legs anymore for Tab. So they'll get people used to it. It's become a common thing for us round after round, and now they've taken it away. Ladbrokes have the 3+ leg same game multi still, but only one per day. So you'll probably have to go to Lads over Tab to get the 3+ legs, and Ned's 12 up halftime Friday night early payout if you like the Dogs or you like the Dons.
Yeah, well, let's get straight into that game there, Pez. 7th versus 8th. This should be an absolute cracker. It'll be packed out Marvel Stadium. Essendon taking on Western Bulldogs. 2.20 outsiders, the Bombers. $1.65 favourites, the Dogs. -6.5 is the line. Over under 171.5. Pez. Both of these teams we haven't rated highly. Essendon have been probably the surprise package this year, jumping up last year from that 11th or 12th finish. And the Dogs, just doing what the Dogs do, just sort of handballing the ball around, staying a little bit relevant, winning the games they're meant to, and then struggling in those big contests. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts about this one.
Yeah, it is interesting when you speak about the Bombers and their year in 2023. I want to speak a little bit about their supporters because Collingwood supporters, it doesn't matter win, lose or draw. They're winning at the moment, but it doesn't matter. You're going to hear their voice throughout the week no matter what. Carlton supporters, a little bit quieter than Collingwood supporters, but you still hear them. They've got passion when they're losing. They're up and about when they're winning. Essendon supporters, you hear about them when they beat Adelaide at Marvel, up and about, going to win the premiership. And then last week, they go down to Geelong, lose by 70, 80 points, whatever it was.
Should have been a lot more.
And crickets. You're not hearing anything from them online, on socials. So very disappointed with the Bombers faithful because they're only there for one reason, and we haven't heard from them for about 20 years. So get your act together, Bombers fans, and get your tweets happening again. So
I'm glad I asked you about what your thoughts are about the game, not bloody the supporters. But if there are any Essendon supporters listening, they'll be interested to hear how they can fare against the Dogs, Pez.
Yeah, and it's up in the air here. This game was actually much closer early on, and punters have jumped all over the Bulldogs, who have shortened drastically. So you'd think it's a 50-50 coin toss at stages. Yeah. It'll be really open game because the Doggies like to run it through that middle and enter 50, coming from the wings. And Essendon, we know they don't tackle in the midfield, and we know they just try and run the other way and get that ball forward. So I think it might be pretty high scoring. I've just put a super cheeky one out here. So cheeky! I found the button and was able to press it.
Jeez, you were pretty good on that one, the quick draw.
And this is one of the first times we've brought out the cheeky. It's rare these days, but I've gone a 9-legger here, Sauce. A 9-legger same game multi.
So when you said that you had one of my players in your multis because you've got no other players left, is that right?
That's right. I just chucked everything that I think could hit, might hit.
I'm interested to hear your theory about this after you go through it. But the 9 legs, tell me about the 9 legs as quick as you can because we've only got a short podcast.
Yeah, well, a 9-leg same game multi is probably one of the worst bets you can ever make any multis without promos, but this is a promo. You only have to have 2 legs, and if it loses, you definitely get a bonus bet back. So I'm banking on trying to be lucky here, and if I'm not,
it doesn't matter.
I'll get the bonus bet, and if I lose that, then I lose the 1 unit, and 1 unit 25 up for the year. I'm going to risk that for the Friday night for the free hit. So here are my legs: 20 disposals, Zach Merritt; 20 disposals, Tom Liberatore; Jordan Ridley to get 15, Ed Richards to get 15. Over 179.5. So I've picked my own line. I've bumped it up because I think it'll be really high scoring. So that's $2.30 by itself. Bulldogs to win -6.5. Jake Stringer to kick 2+ goals. Cody Waitman to kick 2+ goals. Jamara Ugle-Hagan to kick 2+ goals. There you have it.
Nice. And what odds?
$19.
1 unit on that one, $19. It's a bit of an interesting play at this one because normally we've been going just the 2 legs and trying to hit the guaranteed, the $2, the double up. But you're going, well, I've got a free hitter, I might as well just go hard. You're treating it like a bonus bet.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend following this or going on this all the time, but I'm just literally having a punt because I was struggling today to find something. I know that I've got that safety net of the bonus bet to try and hit something back and at odds as well. So I've got 2 shots here, and this is my first shot I'm taking.
Yeah, I don't mind it on that sort of theory, Pez. I'm not a big fan of large legged multis, and I have this discussion quite often with people who, why would you try and, get a massive multi, and if one leg fails, because that's what always happens, one leg fails, why not just shorten the odds and put a bigger stake on it and get more money returned? But,
I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
But
So I'm just interested to hear you flip. Then we're having a bit of fun with it. The podcast is obviously up and about 70 units, so we'll take that in. I was interested in this game because it's a coin flip. I like what you said there, and I think the bookies have really jumped all over the dogs. 220, I don't mind Essendon there, and the plus 6.5, I don't mind either.
Oh, well, too bad they're dead to you.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So I can't bet on them there. The dogs, everyone knows my theory. The dogs are extremely overrated. So I went to my notes, and the 2 bits of information that my notes said is that the Western Bulldogs give up a lot of the pill to backmen, and we saw that last week with Melbourne. And generally, they're the sort of players that you target against them. And then for Essendon, it's targeting the big body midfielders. So I've just gone a 3-leg same game multi. Dyson Heppel to get 20. The last 9 games he's done that, so that should be pretty easy for him. He's sitting in pretty decent odds because, as I said, the bookies think that the dogs will have this one in the bag. So if that is the case, and that does sort of come into fruition, the ball's going to be going down that way anyway. I've got Jordan Ridley to get 20 or more. Now, he's where my value has bumped up a little bit. I've got him for 20 or more, and the last 4 or 5 weeks he's only averaged that twice. But if you look back through the season, the teams that my notes say that against they give away to the backman, Carlton, Richmond, Fremantle, he's all gone over 20 and he's gone big. So I'm hoping that sort of role will fit into him very nicely. And I've just gone the Bont, 25 or more. He's in absolute ripping form. He is a good shot for the Brownlow. I like those odds, Pez. So I haven't told you the odds, but I do definitely like them. I've got 2 units on it at $3.10. So just going for lots and lots of possessions in this one.
Yep. So you've bumped up a couple of players. Like I've got Ridley 15, you've got him 20, but you've only got the 3 legs, and you only have to cheer for that. I'm probably not even going to look at my same game multi-tracker for the night. I was going to
say that'll be a hard one to manage.
Nah, it's not even worth it. So just throw it out there and see how we go.
You know how you're watching it and you got 3 players in there and they get that nice little chain. I doubt there's going to be a 6-man chain into a goal. But I like your Ugelhagen play in that one, Pez. I did have in my notes big forwards against Essendon. Specifically, if you looked at if you watched the game closely last week with Hawkins, his leading patterns, and he got a lot of them out front on the lead. Thatcher probably will match up on Ugelhagen, and he's a better leader. Well, not a better leader, but he is a lot more agile than Big Hawk.
He's got good hands.
He's got good hands, so he
just needs to kick straight.
Expect him to get a lot of it, but the odds out there for him to get 2 or 3 are not great. You can get $6 for him to get 4, and $5 for Norton to get 4. That's probably the only bit of value. Otherwise, it sits about the $2.20.
Yeah, well, it's $1.60,
$2.20
$1.60 for 2, and then $2.30 for 3. So he was in my multi first as the 2+ leg, 2 goals, and then I thought it's Essendon. Chuck Waitman in there, and then I got to the end, and I'm like, it was $9.50. I'm going to boost it up. If it's going to be really high scoring, Essendon have to score. I was going to go 2 metre Peter, who's only like $1.30 for 2. Jake Stringer, $2 for 2 goals. Put him in there. He'll have a couple of pings from 50
You look
out.
down and you're like, oh, shit.
See how we go, yeah. And we'll throw it in there. A bit of fun and see how we go.
All right, speaking of see how we go, let's see how the Hawks can take on the Tigers. Richmond taking on Hawthorn. $1.36 favourites are the Tigers. $3.06 outsiders the Hawks. Minus 17.5 is in line. Over under 165.5. Pez, at the start of the year, we had Richmond, I think both of us in the top 8, and they win this game and they can actually bounce into the top 8 for the first time. They probably won't finish the round in the top 8, but this looks like a good spot for them, and they've been in a lot better form the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Richmond have definitely cost themselves this season. They've had injuries. Sportsbet actually did a justice refund on Tom Lynch.
Did he play this season?
For the Coleman. He played a couple of games early, and they're really missing him as a big key forward. Jack Riewoldt looks really tired out there at the moment. They did their number on West Coast last week. They are travelling back from Western Australia, so that always ends up taking a toll. And Hawthorn at the MCG, like a month ago, I probably would have gone, hey, this plus 18.5 line for Hawthorn's looking really good. Last week they had a bit of a training run against North Melbourne under the roof, but I would lean probably towards Hawthorn plus here. I think Richmond need to win for finals, but still, it might be a bit of a trap. Like, are you really going to go Tigers to win 19 plus and think that that's value? So lean towards Hawthorn plus 18.5 at $1.90 is the best I found at Ladbrokes. Other than that, I'm just going to stay away from there.
Yeah, I'd just be playing the possessions in this one. With the last couple of weeks, it's been well documented on this podcast as well as all over Twitter and other podcasts that Hawthorn, they are much improved. They get a lot of the appeal despite them not winning as many games as, probably Hawthorn fans would like. So look for Day and Warple, Connor Nash, Jai Newcomb. Who's the other bloke? The Sicily as well. A lot of those blokes to get a lot of the pill. The other real deficit that we've seen heaps, and the only two teams that haven't been able to score massive goals against Hawthorn have been North Melbourne and North Melbourne. So both of them, no players got more than 2 scoring shots last week for North Melbourne, and the first time they played, same again, 3 scoring shots. Look for reroll. Reroll's a very good value for 3 goals at $2.70, considering that every other team gives away 4 goals. For him to get 4 goals, you want to have a little bit of a pump with a bonus bet, $5.75. No value with 2 at $1.55, but 3 and 5, that's where the value is. I'll hopefully win my multi on Friday night, but if not, I'll probably be guiding there against the Hawks, probably looking at the 3 goals and possibly the 4, but looking for that disposal market. But at the moment, just waiting to see the way the teams go, see what's going on in terms of the ins and outs, obviously, but then also seeing what specials are coming in, because it's still early days, and I like the odds on Neds and Lads, but haven't seen any of their sort of the same game multi-cover thing. I haven't seen that advertised.
Just the Lads one per day.
Yeah, so and I'm not a big fan of Lads, so I will waive that one. But if you put all of those together, you get odds of about $2.40. Just those 3 main disposal getters: Nash, Day, and Warple. So I'll be using that to anchor some of my multis. But official bet for me.
Big game in the 11th versus 16th, but it is a big game to see how they'll play at the end of the season. Because if Richmond lose this, season nearly done, and then what do they do with the caretaker coach? They play the kids, they rest a couple of older players. It makes punting a little bit harder coming into the latter end of the season.
Definitely. Speaking about making things harder, West Coast getting a lot of their players back, and the line has shortened by 4 points. Now it's only plus 56.5, where it's been sitting at minus 60 for most of the year. Carlton $1.04, absolute guarantee, the Blue Baggers. They're famous last words, aren't they? $10.5, so $10.50 outsiders the Eagles, minus 56.5 is the line. Over under 174.5. Pez, Carlton make it 6 in the trot, over 50 points.
Well, they should. They definitely should. They beat him by 108 over there earlier in the year, and then
different teams playing.
Then went on a bad try. Very different team. Chera out injured. Mackay injured his knee, and you've got Boyd is suspended, but Cripps as well injured. So a couple of big spots in the midfield. Ed Kerner comes back in to try and save that career. Cowan, Hollands. So. Carlton, they should run over the top of them. Kerno will be the focal point as well. So McGovern is out injured. So who really goes to him? Do they double team him? He kicked 9 against them last time. Or will there be opportunities for some small forwards to come over there, like Fogarty maybe, to play up forward a little bit and snag a few? I've just gone Carlton at the over team line. Now, remember 2 months ago, the team line when it was just over 100 points, 102, 103, 104. It's been creeping up and up and up. So I've just gone Carlton to score over 115.5 points at $1.88 on Lads. Just a single.
Okay, just a single. I'd just be looking for any of the Carlton goal scorers. I think, as you said, the focal point is going to be the big man there, and see how that forward line works with just one of the spearheads. Looking for any of those sort of outside goal scorers, maybe Jack Martin for 2 or more. He looked good last week. Jesse Motlop, 2 or more, $2.03. Sorry, Jack Martin was $2.30. Maybe even Silvani at the $1.53 there. That's pretty good odds for 2 or more, and something you expect the ball to be down there a lot and frequent. And Carlton really need to build that percentage up too. So that 56.5 looks enticing, but you never know. It's Carlton. You wouldn't be picking them at minus 50 of the last 4 weeks. I'm not too tempted with against West Coast, and obviously a much improved West Coast as well with that lineup.
I guess percentage a little bit less important for for the Blues after drawing earlier in the year. So they're against Geelong and Richmond, who they're beating Richmond by 12% at the moment. So if they can catch Geelong and jump up 15%, it'd be a real bonus.
Percentage is always good, Pez. There's no need for you to chime in there, all right? So just settle down. All right, speaking of an important game, Brisbane taking on Geelong. Surprisingly, I looked at this ladder, Pez, and it's 3rd versus 5th. So I was a little bit shocked in Geelong's recent jump up there. And I know they've been playing good football, but I didn't realise that they jumped up to 5th. I was pretty content with the premiership last year and just queuing the rack and just enjoying that one. But
hey, a lot of results have been going the Cats' way, really.
They definitely have, yeah.
St Kilda have just subsided. The Doggies have, lost a few they shouldn't have. Essendon have just performed as Essendon do. And the Giants have been able to get a few scalps and come up to that range. So Geelong, they'd be eyeing off Melbourne. It would have been handy for the Cats if Brisbane had held on to that, because they sit a game and a half behind Melbourne, but they can catch up a little bit to the Lions this week if they can get over the line.
Yeah, I think top 4 is gone for the Cats. Brisbane and Melbourne both not playing teams in the top 8 with their last remaining 6 games. Take away, obviously, Brisbane taking on Geelong. Port Adelaide's probably the only team that they could possibly catch, have quite a difficult run home, but they're way clear. They're 5 games clear. So top 4 gone for them, but a home final in Victoria for the Cats is what they'll be eyeing off at the end of the season. But let's get into this game.
Yeah, Zach Bailey's out injured in this one, so that's big. Did you not say the odds yet?
I haven't said the odds yet. Thanks for cutting me off. $1.46 favourites are the Lions, $2.65 outsiders the Cats, -13.5 is the line, over under 177.5. Hey, tell me about the ins and outs, Pez.
Hey, podcast secrets. Pez never listens to Sauce when he goes through the odds, so I never know when you've actually
What do I do it then?
For the listeners out there, Zach Bailey out injured, so he's a big loss for them. Jared Lyons omitted because Dunkley is back in, so Dunkley has taken that spot. Jared Lyons still a decent footballer. When
still
he
gets a lot of it, doesn't he?
He'd be in the top 22 or the starting 22 of most clubs out there, I would imagine, and he's been omitted here. Calamachi coming
Wouldn't
in
be in
as
Gold
well.
Coast. Wouldn't be in Gold Coast.
No, not at all. Gold Coast get rid of their best players. So I'm really torn on this one, because are Geelong really going to go up and get a hold of this? I think Hawkins and Cameron against the Lions defence will have to have a big say here. I don't know if Geelong are deep enough in the midfield. I'd go Brisbane's midfield to get on top here, and it's just, can Brisbane kick straight, and can their forward line function in a way, especially without Zach Bailey, who does create a few opportunities. So they're probably too short for me to back at $1.46. I wouldn't be backing the Cats at $2.65 either. So this is a really sit and watch interest game. I would have loved it if it was tonight, Sauce, on the Thursday night, but you've got the Matildas playing the soccer, you've got a couple of other things going on, and they put it on the twilight on Saturday. So Saturday afternoon is set in front of the TV to watch this one.
And Australia, of course, in that one, up 1-0 in the 80th minute. Stephanie Catley, taking the I don't know who that is, but I probably butchered her name. But, that's a nice little start to the women's team's campaign.
Helps
there.
Sam Kerr, because she's, out for the first 2 games. So
very upset on the sidelines.
Yep.
A lot of emotion. I'm obviously, everyone knows I'm a Geelong fan, but I haven't been sold on them all year. I've been sort of sitting there and watching them play, but they've hit some form the last couple of weeks. The Essendon win, I expected Essendon to be more competitive for that, and Geelong looked absolutely in full flight. Tommy Atkins in the middle, he's absolutely taken the spot. Not of Joel Selwood, but he's really playing that big, bustling midfield. He's tackling, he's applying pressure. Their forward line is absolutely flying. Tomahawk looks a lot looser. I thought he was maybe carrying an injury there. He was making some decent sort of leads.
And Holmes has taken a big step.
But exactly right. They're getting back to that form. And what I liked is recently I was listening to Scott's press conference, and he's normally quite sort of protective of his team and all this. And he sort of alluded to that we knew exactly what we were doing, and we're coming into form at the right time, which is an interesting move, and it's an interesting statement that a lot of coaches make, but something that I haven't heard from Scott previously. And we know that normally they gun ho all season. But it's interesting this sort of
his hand's been forced here.
It has been a
couldn't
little
win the games early on, so he's got to come up with something.
But what I do like in this one is I like Geelong against head-to-head with Brisbane. So the last 10, Geelong have won 8 out of the last 10, only losing 2. One last year 2 years ago in an absolute thriller by 1 point, and a couple of years ago Brisbane got a hold of them. All time at the venue 11 and 10. They play the venue quite well. It will be hot. It probably will be very sticky up there as well. But I don't mind the Cats in this one. Blue bet 265, 2 units for me, just for a little bit of a free play there, Pez. Hopefully they can get a hold of them. Geelong have been a great first half team, and as you said, Brisbane will be needing to get a win here. They would have had that one in the bank last week, but their inaccuracy around goal, I'm hoping that we see that sort of Brisbane Lions rock up to the Gabba.
Back on the Pussycats for
Hey,
Sauce.
all year round, and when I've backed them, what's happened? All year, I backed the Brisbane one. I backed someone else earlier in the year when they beat the Doggies. There's 2 big wins, and this will be a third one. So,
yep, you keep living in the past there. Continue to go.
That's all we do is live in the past, Pez. We reference stats non-stop about the last week. If I could reference the future, we'd have a much more successful podcast, Pez.
We reference 2022. We reference how many units are off. Yeah, we do it.
All right, let's get on to Fremantle, Sydney, 220 outsiders, the Dockers at home, which is very surprising. $1.65 favourites are the Swans. -6.5 is the line. Over under 165.5. And Pez, it doesn't matter what I said because you haven't listened. So tell me about Fremantle and Sydney.
Yeah, a couple of big ins for Fremantle, except Darcy out injured again, so not too happy with that because I think Fremantle could have been in a really good spot here playing at home. I know they underperformed against Carlton a couple of weeks ago and Sydney got a good win against the Doggies, but I think this was the game to turn it around, but I won't be touching it without Sean Darcy in the middle there. But Hayden Young comes in, Sarong comes in, Frederick comes in as well, who are very important, but Chad Warner and Jake Lloyd to play as well. Now we know Sydney are used to playing on that small ground at the SCG, and they keep it close, and they've come close with a lot of decent teams up there this year. But they are playing at Optus Stadium, which is a bigger ground, and with that Hayden Young inclusion, I think he can move the ball and break that line, which they weren't able to do in the past couple of weeks. So maybe a lean towards Fremantle at the price at 220, but I'll just sit on this one at the moment.
Really, you're with Fremantle?
Well, no, I just said because
more of a lean.
No Darcy.
Just because of the actual price is where you're leaning, or
just because of the price and a little bit of value there if you were to go with Blue Bet. But yeah, I'm not probably not going to bet it without Darcy.
Yeah, I love Sydney in this one. Sydney, I mean, obviously they have to win all the remaining 6 to even make a dint into it, but they've had been playing a lot better football the last month. They had that expected win that they should have had against Geelong. They should have absolutely thumped them, and Geelong's been in ripping form, so you take that as a win. You look at the Richmond game that they probably should have had that one too, but they sort of had a bit of a brain fart at the end and absolutely gave that away in that last quarter. They were good last week as well, and of course you go back 4 weeks, they had that big 180-point win. So I really like the value in this one, $1.65, Pez. I'm pretty keen on that market there. Fremantle are more of a team, if we look at back 2 years ago when we saw Essendon come from 11th and then make the 8th and then they fell away. Fremantle are more that team. Last year they came from nowhere. They came from 11th spot last year. They made the 8 and everyone expected them to just make that big jump. Not to be. They're a young side. They're actually sitting, they got themselves in a nice little spot there towards a draft pick that could go towards their young core. I actually don't think that they need to win any of these games. I don't think they want to win these games. I like the ins from Sydney. Chad Warner to come in, Jake Lloyd. They'll almost be at full strength and back to their grand final team, and $1.65, Pez. Give me 3 units on that one. $1.65 for the Swans.
Three. Blue bet,
of course. Yeah.
So as punters would be aware, terms and conditions, you can win up to $100 with that 12-up special. So Sauce is going big with 3 units there. And you speak about Fremantle making the 8. They didn't just make the 8.
No,
they finished 5th. They were a draw away from not even 4th spot, from 2nd spot. They were 2 points behind those 3 teams. So they were very, very close to getting a couple of home finals there, Fremantle, last year, and they've dropped way off the map.
And if you look at them now, Pez, they're sitting 4th last, right? So if they lose this game, Sydney's the team that's above them at the moment. That'll get them a top 4 pick in next year's draft with a young core. I love that for Fremantle moving forward. They would have already kissed this season goodbye. They've started to change their offense around a little bit, but I think Sydney, there's so much more for Sydney to play as opposed to Fremantle.
Yeah, and so much more for Port Adelaide to play after last week's little debacle. But did they mean to do it? They rested a lot of players. They came down to Marvel and they
were due.
They got done by 50. They were due, and they got done by 50 points. So did they do it because they were coming in to play Collingwood at home? I think it would be really silly to deliberately do it. So I guess players had niggles and things because you're going to lock in 4 points when you can. You're not going to worry about a home and away game against Collingwood. You're not going to do that.
Yeah, definitely not. And it is an interesting move to hypothesise that they possibly went in there and they rested players in that, because you got a 13-game winning streak. Why wouldn't you want to keep that alive and go into, a packed out Adelaide Oval and try and take that momentum in there with them? But this is going to be an absolute cracking game. First versus second, as we said, $1.92 outsiders, the Port Adelaide Power. Very unusual to see them at home at Adelaide Oval, $1.92, and be outsiders unless they're playing the Crows. $1.88 favourites are the Pies. -5.5 is the line, over under 160.5. Pez, I'm expecting this to be an absolute cracker of a game in terms of crowd. You remember back to the Geelong versus Port Adelaide game, that third quarter, you couldn't hear a thing, and they absolutely used that to springboard into a winning position. And if I'm Port Adelaide, I'm walking out there just wearing the prison bars and saying, you know what, fine us all you want, we're going to absolutely dominate you in the prison bars and show you who's our bitch.
Jesus. I was not expecting anything like that. There'll be a lot of prison bars
There'll
out
be
there.
a heap of prison bars.
There's going to be a few...
Not many teeth, but...
There's going to be a few escapes from jail this week as well, because the Collingwood supporters are going to be out in full flight.
They wouldn't be able to get many tickets from that one.
Getting across the border and getting in there. They played against St Kilda at Adelaide Oval in round 5, and the Collingwood crowd that was there, it was like a home crowd at the MCG. So they are absolutely everywhere, all over Australia, the Magpies fans. The teams seem like they're putting the best available out there. Port Adelaide are bringing their best back in. Myercheck and Cameron are coming in, and Johnson, Frampton, Markov all omitted from the team, which is very interesting. The only thing is Collingwood away. What's going to happen if Port Adelaide win? They go equal with Collingwood on top, probably still losing on percentage, but they've got a chance to get that top spot. But if Port Adelaide do win, it pretty much cements a top 2 finish source. So it is a huge game for them. I'm not backing against Collingwood, no way, with the way that they can be 5 goals down and then come back at any time. The run of Nick Dacos, I think he's gone down to $1.70 to win the Brownlow, a 20-year-old player who's come in from half back and then he's gone into the middle. He's just amazing to watch, and his skill set is next to no one. So this is going to be a game of the round sort of stuff. The atmosphere is going to be absolutely insane, and this is the game that you're watching. You're not going to be watching Fremantle versus Sydney.
I'll be watching. I've got 3 units on it. I'll definitely be watching it.
Two screens.
I'm really surprised how much the media jumped off Port Adelaide. If 2 weeks ago everyone was going crazy about how good Port Adelaide were, but that loss against Carlton was coming. I actually said it last week that this is a huge danger game for them, and if it wasn't Carlton, I would have been silly and said that they were going to win by 40 plus. But do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's one of those ones that were coming. They were poor against Essendon. They should have lost to Essendon. They've been looking for this game, and they'll be using this to really start their finals campaign. I like Port Adelaide in terms of what they can do to compete with Collingwood. We know Collingwood, the way that they win is they just absolutely control that corridor. Port Adelaide can do that as well. They like to hit you on the rebounds, and that's how you're going to beat Collingwood, is if you can hit that rebound and you can stop that midfield run. They've got quite a good sort of back line, not a traditional back line, Port Adelaide, where they've sort of got those big key defenders. They've got Alia who moves really well at the back. I think he'll be perfect for this Collingwood forward line. I like Port Adelaide, but as you said, it's top versus 2 teams. It's a coin flip. There's no advantage except for the home ground in this one. The lineups look pretty good. The form for both these teams are not too bad. Collingwood obviously having some ripping form. Port Adelaide 13 wins up until this one. I'm just going to steer clear and watch the Fremantle-Sydney game, Pez.
Jeez, that's a long time to talk about a game and we've got no bets on, but that shows
that shows how exciting it's going to be. Yep. And I'll tell a lie. Of course, I'm going to be watching that game, but it's going to be an absolute cracker, and it's good to see this. And the big question everyone's going to be asking is: are the coaches going to go full throttle, knowing that they'll probably be playing each other in a couple of weeks in a prelim final? Not prelim final. What's the first one called? The elimination final.
Well, if they're... This is not good from you, Sauce.
No, what's the first one they call? First, second, or first, fourth, whatever.
Well, it's going to be first, fourth, so they're probably not going to play each other the first week. It's a qualifying final.
Well, I would definitely meet in a prelim.
What if they both win the first week? They can't meet in a prelim.
Grand final then.
As a Geelong supporter, you need
Well,
to know.
I don't know what happens because we always just lose the prelim. That's all we do.
You need to know the final.
We just make prelims and lose.
Go on, mate.
All right, GWS taking on Gold Coast, the Expansion Cup. This one, $1.57 outsiders.
Is that what it's actually called, or you made that up?
Made that up. Just $1.57 outsiders. The Giants. Gold Coast. Sorry, $1.57 favourites are the Giants. $2.41 is the Gold Coast Suns. -9.5 is the line. Over under 167.5. Pez. The Giants are back. They are sitting one game outside of the 8, which is incredible considering how they are. How they started the season with all their injuries.
Yeah, and a loss to West Coast.
And Hawthorn as well. I think round 1, or was that Adelaide?
Adelaide they beat.
They
beat Adelaide twice this year, which was pretty ridiculous with the.
Oh no, they
escaped.
They escaped the Giants one Hawthorn in Tassie.
Himmelberg.
That's right. Yes,
a big mark, and then they went forward. So the Giants are actually equal 6 with St Kilda, Bulldogs, Essendon.
That's incredible.
And themselves with 36 points, but their percentage is below 100 and really poor. But if they win this game this week, you've got the Bulldogs or Essendon, one of them are going to lose, so they're going to go ahead of them, like Carlton are going to go ahead as well. So the Giants could actually, depending on results, finish this week in the 8 if they can get across Stephen King's Suns. So Stephen King made a few moves. They looked decent with their ball movement. They were able to go all over St Kilda's midfield. St Kilda didn't really have a forward line, but the way Gold Coast brought the ball out and dominated that game, they were quite impressive. So Expansion Cup, season on the line stuff for both sides. It seems to happen a lot in round 19. Let's get it done.
Let's get it done. I really like the Giants in this one. You spoke last week about the caretaker and the first game coach for a new team. It goes 50%, drops off significantly for that second week. It goes down to about 14% or something like that.
Because they're usually a bottom tier team.
Exactly right. And it's normally strategically done. But the GWS are in good form. They return home or to Canberra or to wherever they play. Interesting stuff about them. They play the most games away rather than any other side. Obviously, selling their games to a range of different places around the country, but GWS ripping form. Love watching Toby Green play. He's been so good to watch last week, and basically willed them home last week against Adelaide in that last quarter. He was great to watch.
You know what? He's done that a lot, and the umpires just don't recognise it when it is. I'll be interested on Brownlow night because he's actually won a few games off his own back.
Do you think it's turning around a little bit? I feel like he's not being treated as unfairly by the umpires over probably the last 2 months.
I think Cody Waitman's taken that job because all he does is dive for free kicks, and Cody Waitman could be a really good player. We've spoken about that already, but you need to stop diving for free kicks. But Toby, for years, he doesn't speak to the umpires.
Just goes about his business.
He gets a horrible call against him, turns around, jogs forward.
Great to watch. Great role model for young AFL footballers.
Unless he's karate kicking someone in the head.
Unless you're a Western Bulldogs fan. Anyway, which is ironic because Cody Waitman's now not the ideal candidate for a role model.
He's got to be the villain, Cody Waitman.
Speaking of villains, let's get on to Melbourne taking on Adelaide. Adelaide dropping a game at home. The true Jekyll and Hyde comes undone last week. $3.57 outsiders are the Crow. Melbourne Demons $1.30 after a very impressive win against the Lions and comeback win at that. -21.5 is the line. Over under 67.5.
The Crows.
Yeah.
Dropping that one. 17 points up half time. Could have finished 6th at the end of the round. And they've dropped down to 12th.
And possibly will miss finals too, and they've gone win-loss for the last probably 7 or 8 rounds. And
they've sucked outside of Adelaide.
Yeah.
You can't drop that one in Adelaide. That was a
gimme. That was a gimme.
Yeah, for everything happening. Now, they played well on the MCG against the Pies, and they couldn't get the chocolates in the end. Melbourne, I think Melbourne a little bit rejuvenated over the past couple of weeks with the help of Melksham, with the help of Petrarca going forward. He's got his kicking boots on now, kicking 8 goals in the past 2 weeks. And that Max Gawn singular ruckman, I think the two 2 ruckmen are obviously finished. We thought that 5 years ago, Sauce, but teams still, tried
We
to
said
make
it couldn't
work.
work in the All-Australian, and then our point has been proven. They should never, ever pick two Australian ruckmen ever again. It doesn't work.
No, you need to have one, and Grundy will go elsewhere, which Collingwood will love because they probably won't have to pay him anymore, would they, if they trade him? But
It's so funny. He's probably going to go to his 3rd club, still being paid by Collingwood, still being paid by Melbourne because
I
no
think
one is
that'd
touching
void.
that contract.
I think that'd void though.
You reckon the 3rd club?
If Melbourne
Surely
trade
no
him,
one structures a contract that way.
surely
Jeez.
Collingwood don't have to still pay him. But anyway, that's defeats the purpose of this whole thing. Melbourne, MCG should get the win, but they should have got the win at TO Stadium against GWS and didn't do it. So stranger things can happen. No value in it at $1.30. I'd be looking at some goal kickers. So Malcolm, a couple of goals, things like that. That's where I'd be going.
I'll be looking for goal kickers as well, Pez, looking specifically at small forwards for the Adelaide Crows, and them being outsiders is good value for those goal kickers. Looking at Rankine, you're looking at probably McAdams. You can get $2.12 for 2 or more goals, and $3.25 for McAdams there as well. Over the last month or so, you look at Melbourne, and they've got a great defensive structure, but they don't have anyone to run around those crumbs. The last month, you look at Cameron kicked last week, Bailey kicked 2, Cameron kicked 2, McCarthy kicked 2. You look at the week before, you had Gresham kicked 2. Week before that, Toby Green kicked 3, Rowan kicked 2. Small forwards against the Ds, load up on that one, but not very confident in actually, not very confident up against pulling the trigger at Adelaide away. But that's where the value is at. 2 goals for some of their smaller forwards.
Yeah, just on the MCG there. We end the round. We can end it there if we want because this next game doesn't really mean anything, really.
Means a lot to me. This is where my biggest bet's coming in this one, Pez. $1.13 favourites are the Saints. $6.05 outsiders North Melbourne. -34.5 is the line. Over under 160.5. Pez. You said there's no interest in this one. There is heaps of interest in this one.
It's a bit of a grudge,
but it's a good spot for you. You'll be able to get a win back on the winner in the winners table, and you'll be
not
able to
necessarily. Have you seen the ins? Tom Campbell's coming into the side. I didn't know he would ever play AFL again, and maybe he might be out of the side by come Sunday or Saturday night, whenever it is. Zerha's injured, which helps the Saints. Toddy Goldstein will probably come back in, which is good for him because he's been dropped a few times this year. But if St Kilda can't get over the line here, obviously they don't deserve to play finals. And even if they do win, they might still not play finals. So $1.13, not good against the Roos here because the Roos have been playing some decent footy at Marvel. The last month they've been really horrible. Let's see how this one plays out on a Sunday twilight.
Sunday twilight and Pez. I hope it plays out very similar to the way it did last time. Low scoring. I love the value in this one. Last time these two teams played, they scored a measly 94 points, Pez. And if you had backed that minus 100 or under 101 points, you could have got 101 odds. So if you want anything cheeky in this one, go the under 101 at 101 odds, or even a little bit more cheeky. Well, not more cheeky, but a little bit more realistic. The under 110. For $34 odds, which is not too bad considering if you look at St Kilda's last month. Since that loss to Hawthorn, where they should have really set up their finals, they've gone back to a defensive brand of footy. 140, 160, 146, 162, 131, 128. That's their last 6 pairs. All under that 100 or that under 160.5. The line in this one, 160.5. So 2 units for me on the St Kilda or the game total points under. 2 of your best forwards are out. North Melbourne are a team that struggles to score. You just said that the ins and the outs in this one are not favourable. I think the Saints lock this one up. And I'm going to possibly dabble, Pez, with another unit at the 150.5 at 255. So 1 unit on that one, 255. And if I have any bonuses for this, I might even go a little bit lower at the 145, $3.05. So going all under, my metrics have it sitting at 149 pairs. The last 3 weeks, my metrics have been bang on with these low-scoring games. So,
I'm tempted to go the other way here. Jack Higgins coming in. What's he paying for 3 goals? Maybe a bonus bet.
Yeah, but if he kicks 3 goals, that's fine. Where are you going to get the rest of the goals from, Pez?
That'll go towards him, I
You
reckon.
need another 15 goals for that one to happen, Pez. So that's not happening.
Yeah, no Zerha, but what do you got? Larky down there, he'll kick 5. Higgins will kick 3.
So now you're up to
Sharman,
eight, now
Sharman
you're
will
up to
kick
8 goals.
Sharman will kick 3.
There's 11.
Rowan will kick another 2 from the
You're
middle
just
of the
getting
ground.
ridiculous. If you think that's going to happen, you'd be better putting single units on all of
Billings
those.
will kick 5, and then we're there.
Billings. Jesus Christ, Pez. That's a terrible form by
over 200, a bit cheeky there. That'd be good.
They wouldn't even put a market out on it. You think 101 for under 100, considering it happened last time, I think that's bad odds. You'd be looking at 300, 400 mark, that one.
Oh, well,
501.
That concludes the bet slip for round 19 there, Sauce. And you got nothing else, no little multis together. We've both put a couple of things that might be a little bit cheeky out, which is really good. I don't have a multi. You thought I did? No.
No, the way you were sort of leading into that one, that's not what you normally do, is you normally throw me under and say anything, and I make something silly, and you're like, nah, we've got this great little multi going. 19 legs.
Well, 9 legs, $19 tomorrow night. Don't follow along if you want to keep your money. And,
don't follow along with that one, but do jump on to Twitter and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and follow along with this there. Jump on to all good podcast providers, leave us 5 stars and a review, helps other punters find us. And Pez, make sure you jump onto our Twitter page at Behind the Bound to be able to see our spreadsheet, see our profit, and as you said, plus 70.5 units. Loving life at round 18. Whew.
Oh, we'll take it. If we get in the negative this year, we've done something seriously wrong. If we're going to lose 70 units,
it's possible, but
it's very possible because you could just dump it on something. But
it would be very concerning if we lost 70 units in 6 rounds.
If we do that, podcast.
Actually, it's not that far off really, because if you've put 4 weeks of finals, that's 10 weeks and seven units per round between the both of us. It's very doable. But hopefully
it's doable. But then you're going to go on a streak where you're not going to win any bet, which is possible as well. It happens, but not going to happen here.
Jeez, if we lose all our best pairs, I'm going to stop betting next week, because that is the biggest jinx we've just put on ourselves. What are we doing?
No, we've got to challenge ourselves for the end of the year, make it a little bit exciting.
To not lose.
We've got to aim. We'll aim up.
What were you aiming for before?
Aim to get above 100. We'll go for there.
All right, let's get over 100. Let's start things off this round by getting over 100, Pez.
I'm Pez. Peace out.
I'm still Sauce. We'll catch up next time.
Now you're gone.